baseball. From Division I to Division III, it's time for College Sports Weekly with Don Macholis and Dan Underberg on the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network.
Better than mine. I got a packed house yelling, bring them out, bring them out. I'm a hot girl yelling, bring them out, bring them out. All the dope boys yelling, bring them out, bring them out. Front the back gate yelling, bring them out, bring them out. Mic check, 1 2 1 2. You want to?
And a good Saturday morning, everybody, as we are live from the Wisconsin State Fair. It's College Sports Weekly, powered by the Potawatomi Sports Book. Don Wachilis, along with the professor Dan Underberg, Charlie Usen. Sorry, buddy, you're stuck back at the studio.
That's all
but
right.
You'll be.
You guys just hate me. It's okay.
As we've hit day 3 of the Wisconsin State Fair, we got a busy 2 hours. Coming up shortly, Michael Sweevil, the new head coach at the University of Wisconsin Lacrosse, is set to join us. Charlie, you got to get used to that. My alma mater gets top billing when we talk about the WIAC. Kyle Hoffman, Kyle Hoffman, the head men's basketball coach from Bryan and Stratton, will join us in the second hour. We got a ton to get to as far as the Wisconsin Badgers, who have now taken to camp and getting some things rolling there. So we'll get to all of that coming up shortly. As we noted, it is day 3 of the Wisconsin State Fair, and our friends from By the Yard are giving away a $2,000 in-store credit towards your purchase of 4 custom Adirondack, that's just one of those words I struggle through, Adirondack chairs and 2 side tables. To register to win, you simply stop by our location here by the Expo Center across from the Milk House, and then you go ahead and QR with your phone, get that code, and submit. And we've got fans on hand here. We got all kinds of stuff for you to grab as a freebie, and we move from there. What are you looking forward to? Because we have to do our debrief post-game, Dan.
Yeah, we will.
Okay.
It's a different setting this time.
Different setting, yes.
So, yeah, no, I'm looking forward to everything. I'm looking forward to – there's the food that you've never had that you have to try.
Yes.
You know, it's always something new here. Libations will be had.
Yes.
So, yeah, just working your way around the fair like people usually do. I know – Josh Albrecht always has a plan when he walks into this thing. He's an expert at this. I have no plan. I just wander. It'd probably drive him nuts.
I think that's a plan, though, in and of itself, isn't it? That you have
it
no
is.
plan.
And the best thing is right now, I was telling Dan before we came on the air, is we are sitting right in front of one of the entrances to the Expo Center. And I'm so glad that the Expo Center is closed when we arrive, because I would have already spent heaven knows how much on – the knife that can cut through a can and still slice a tomato as thin as a piece of paper. I'm a sucker for all of that stuff. So fortunately,
you'll spend money later.
yeah, especially after the libation. So let's get into some college sports again. Michael Sweevil, the new head coach from UW Lacrosse, is set to join us hopefully here in a few minutes as we are efforting towards that. And Dan, with the WIAC, the NAC, all of the Division III stuff that's going on. I mean, we're getting ever so close to football. You're starting to see all of the social media tweets with regards to, people are ready to report to camp. People are, moving in, getting themselves ready. It's that time of the year, and I think I may have said this last week on the show. It's bittersweet because on one hand, once the fair comes, that to me is the sign that summer's coming to an end, and we're starting to work our way towards, school starting and fall and everything else, and the end of golf season, and it gets a little depressing in that regard. But on the other hand, it means we're getting closer to football, which, that's Saints be praised. Let's get this thing rolling, right?
Right. You get that, all of a sudden you're a week away and you're realizing you get to kind of sit on the couch and enjoy it.
Yes.
And the bigger games started happening at night, but then it's an all-day experience. It's not a bad thing. But, yeah, I remember the State Fair for me being like, oh, no, school's almost here. But like you said, with school comes – playoffs.
Yes.
Baseball playoffs and football kickoffs and all that fun stuff. So we're ready.
Yeah, we absolutely are. And with that, let's jump to the Nicolay Law talk and text line. He is the 15th head football coach at the University of Wisconsin Lacrosse. It's Michael Sweevil. Coach, good morning. Thanks for taking some time. Appreciate it.
Good morning. How you guys doing?
We're doing terrific. It's great to have this conversation and talk with you here this morning as we begin our look at the WIAC and the NAC and the Division III that takes place within our state, which we always acclaim to be one of the best. But I got to start with this. If my information is correct, Coach, you are the all-time leading receiver at the Division III level, and yet last year you were the defensive coordinator for the Eagles. How do you go from one side to the other?
You know, I'm not quite sure. It just kind of came about, but I love it. I love the defense side of the ball. I think my experience on offense has definitely helped. I never thought I'd go to the dark side and call it the dark side defense, right? But here I am, and I want to stay there forever.
When you walk into this position now as a head coach, and obviously, you know, you've got a group of young men that are looking at you for leadership, not just on the defensive side, but now for the total program side. How do you make that, or how do you make that switch from DC into the head coaching program, and doing it with a successful program?
Yeah, like you said, I think some of the background as a special teams coordinator, that's where a position that you work with the whole team. So I did that for a couple of years here at UW La Crosse, and then obviously my playing experience on offense, I think, gives me some credibility with especially the skill positions, receivers, tight ends, running backs, quarterbacks. But, I mean, our guys are tremendous. They've been nothing but great and open and receptive since I've gotten hired, and so it's been a pretty smooth transition. I can't complain. Now, obviously, it was pretty easy in the spring and the summer and whatnot, so we'll see what happens here in the fall. But I'm really excited, and we have a great group of guys that work extremely hard. They're accountable, they're responsible, and they're ready to rock and roll.
So, Coach, you follow Matt Janis, who left to be the head coach at Northern Michigan University, moving up to the Division II level. You've been a part of the program. You know what the culture is. It really has rebounded there in La Crosse, I'll say, over the last 5 to 8 years. A program that once was, you know, a predominant player as far as the playoffs go, had a little bit of a dip, and now is back on the upswing. More pressure, or because of the fact you've been there, you kind of know what the town is like, what the community is like, what the school is like, a little bit easier of a transition in keeping that ball rolling?
Yeah, I think the pressure is just all internal, right? I think it's the pressure you put on yourself as a coach, as a player, that we have high standards and expectations, and that's not going to change. Obviously, the last 5 to 8 years, La Crosse has rebounded, and now for the last 5 years, we've been in the playoffs 5 years straight, one of, I think, 4 teams in Division III football to do so. And so obviously there is going to be some built-in stress and pressure and anxiety to continue that. But that's what I want. I think our guys want that. Our staff wants that. And I said when I was hired, like, you know, what are you going to do to maintain? And for me, there's nothing to maintain, man. We have to take a next step. I think we've underachieved in some ways as well, not accomplishing or being as consistent as I think we could be throughout the full season and into the playoffs. So really for us, we got to take a next step. We got to get over the hump and get into the upper echelon of the top 2 to 4 teams in D3 and not settling for that, 6 to 8 range. So that's the challenge. I'm excited for it. I can't think of a better place to coach than La Crosse and having those standards and expectations. I'd rather have those standards and expectations to win conference and compete for a national championship than just be content with being average. So I'm excited.
Well, you're in a conference that is known for its standards. You've got a defending national champion down the road from you that you're going to be up against. And what's your approach to this season in terms of how you want to? Do you want to be a run ball motivated team? Do you want to be passing? And what's going to be, I guess, the identifying element of La Crosse right now?
Yeah, I think the identifying part, besides scheme, is just we're going to play really, really fast, physical, and have a bunch of fun doing it. That's going to be our identity as a football team. We're going to be aggressive, attacking. We're not going to flinch. I'm going to go for it more on 4th down. We're going to be an aggressive style of defense, and we're going to use special teams as a weapon and advantage to win that third phase. Now, the specific X's and O's of, like, are we going to be more run dominant versus pass dominant, and how we're going to structure the defense, that still has yet to be seen. I think on offense we have a ton of really good skill players. And so it's just about now with our offensive coordinator, Coach Yagi, getting those guys the ball in creative manners, getting the ball, doing what they do well. So playing to those guys' strengths. Right now, as we enter fall camp this week, we still have to figure some of those things out, some of the specifics. But I'm not going to force guys to be run dominant or pass dominant or be balanced 50-50. It's all about fitting our scheme to our personnel and to our strengths. And so some weeks that might be we might throw it 80% of the time. Other weeks it might mean we run it 80% of the time. So that always is variable week to week. But the reality is we're going to be fast. I want our guys to be physical. We're going to be an attacking, aggressive style team. So we're going to put pressure on opponents. I'm not going to be a sit back and wait and react. I want to be the attacker, the aggressor, and see if you can't get out on teams early. Use special teams as a weapon. It makes teams have to prepare for those type of things. But we're going to be a little bit different. You'll see on the field, offensively, defensively, and special teams than we have been in the past.
We're talking with Michael Zwiefel, now the 15th head football coach at the University of Wisconsin-La Crosse, joining us on the Nicolay Law Talk and Text line. And, Coach, you kind of took my next question, talking about matching scheme to personnel and seeing how that all fits as camp opens up. What has been the difference for you, however, now sliding into the head coaching role, where you're not only responsible for what's happening in the defensive room, but also the offense, special teams, even though you were in charge of special teams last year? A little bit different, I would assume, in the fact that you've got to dabble into the different rooms as opposed to just really focusing in on defense and special teams like you did in the past.
Yeah, 100%. And a little bit more involved with the offense, but I'm fortunate to have a really, really good staff. That we have some continuity from last year, so everyone's back. It was just Coach Giannis, our head coach, that left, and everyone's still retained. And so we have that continuity going from last year to this year, which really helps. And then as a head coach, you've got to find that balance of giving your position coaches and coordinators autonomy and ownership over their sides of the ball, and just coming in with maybe suggestions or thoughts, or just having a dialogue. But I'm really fortunate to have a really good staff. But, yeah, definitely more involved here with the offense, giving feedback to our offensive coordinators and our offensive staff of what I see, what I feel. But ultimately, at the end of the day, I want those guys to have ownership and autonomy. I think I've gone through it as a coach where the head coach is breathing over your shoulder, or they're forcing you to do things that maybe you don't necessarily see is a best fit. And I don't want that for my assistants. So I hired them, and they're on staff for a reason, to do a job. So I want to let them do their job, and they have that expertise. So that's why you hire people, to do their job and tap into their expertise. And so I don't want to overstep some boundaries with that, and I want them to have freedom to be able to do what they see is fit with their group, because they're ultimately the ones that are with those players on that side of the ball, or special teams or defense, the most. And so some of that balance of finding, hey, when to step in, when to step back, and let those guys do their jobs.
You've been very complimentary about your coaches and kind of the adjustment. How have the players, in your opinion, how have your players adjusted to seeing you in this new role? And should they expect any little changes or wrinkles coming into camp?
Yeah, we went through spring ball. I'm ultimately, I think the best teams are player-led. That's what a firm belief that I have, that when you look at some of the best programs, best teams, no matter the level from high school to professional, I think you got to have a strong player presence and a locker room presence. And the players have to be the ones kind of driving the core values and the culture of the football program. If it's always the coaches, I think you're going to hit a ceiling somewhere that stops you. And so I am really open and active to listen to our players. I've adjusted and adapted a bunch of things to be more player-friendly, to be more efficient with their time, how we practice, how we meet, and those type of things, especially because we're Division III. These guys aren't on athletic scholarships. I'm not going to monopolize their time. I want to be really efficient with our time. So I think our players appreciate that and seen that, how we've really been, cognizant of their time during spring ball, of not wasting time with pointless meetings or aspects of practice that just don't move the needle. And so I think the biggest thing with our guys is that we're going to do a bunch of work on the front end to prepare for practice, to prepare for meetings. And that way, when we get to football, we can be fast, efficient, and then get the heck out of there and let those guys get away from football. Let those guys go have a normal college student life, where I'm not just trying to drag out 2 hours of a meeting or practice because I feel like I got to take their time. And so that's, I think, the biggest thing with our players is that we're going to be everything that we do is going to be moving the needle forward. It's going to be towards a purpose. They know the purpose. They know the why behind it. And then if it doesn't, we're going to send them home and let them have their own time.
So, Coach, you talked about listening to your players moving into this season. Who are some of those upperclassmen or standouts that you rely on to be those leaders within the locker room and listen to their input as the season begins and then moves forward?
Man, there is a ton to name. On offense, we returned Kyle Haas, our starting quarterback from last year, a 1,000-yard receiver in Jack Jenke, another great leader and receiver, Keaton Arndt, a tight end that really is going to be a senior for us, Callahan Miles, that had a great end of the year. We have two old linemen with Bryce Sharp and Watson Allen that those guys have played a lot of snaps for us. They've been in our program for a number of years. Like I said, they're all going to be seniors. So I rely on those guys. And then defensively, from the front, we got Tate Milton and Noah Glazebrook in our D-line that I really trust. Linebacker, Grant Achterkirk. And then in the defensive back room, Trent Mullen, Sam Baumgart, Carver Cram are all guys that have, again, played a ton of snaps for us, all going to be seniors, all know what they need to get prepared, what they need during practice, what they need during meeting times. And so they know I have a pretty open door policy that they can share anything they want with me. Are we spending not enough time on things, too much time on things, and we can constantly adjust and adapt our schedule and our timing. So those guys are prepared for Saturdays. And I want guys to go into a Saturday afternoon for a game day to be fast, to be fresh, to be focused. So doing everything we can mentally, emotionally, psychologically to get them ready for Saturdays is kind of what we're doing with our schedule.
Let's stick with Saturdays for a minute. Now, I know you're probably going to be a one game at a time perspective on this, but you play arguably in the most difficult conference in the United States, D3. But within that, is there a game, is there a team you get a little bit more fired up for than the other ones that are out there? Because you've had some epic ball games, most recently against Whitewater. But is there a team out there you're just like, yeah, you really feel the juices a little bit for that one?
Yeah, I mean, certainly Whitewater stands out, right? That is our rival, and I like it. We don't like them, they don't like us, and this is going to be a rivalry, and that's going to be a big game. I'm not going to hide from that. I know everyone today wants to be buddy with everyone. We don't like Whitewater. That's our rival. Like you said, in the 90s, lacrosse was a national power, and Whitewater kind of came in and took over that through the mid-2000s, the 2000 teens. And so the alumni, fans, we're not happy about that. And so we want to get back to where we were in the 90s. And we see Whitewater is obviously a big threat to that. And so Whitewater for sure. You got other games like we open up with St. John's. There's a lot of bad blood between us and St. John's that goes back to Coach Herring in the 80s and the 90s and whatnot. So that's what we open up with. Our guys will be they beat us in the playoffs in 2024. We go up to their place in week 1. That will be an electric environment. Then you go to River Falls. They come off a national championship. Hard not to want to knock those guys off, right? And they had an incredible run, had a great team, kind of a team that, was on the rise, and then everything clicked in one season, and they won a national championship. So obviously those guys will be a big one. Platteville's gotten the best of us the last 2 years. They're right down the river as well from us, so I guess another big one. So, yeah, I can go week by week, but for sure, guys, Whitewater's the one that we have circled, they have circled. We'll have a record-setting crowd here at Roger Herring Stadium. The last 2 times we played them at Whitewater, there's been 20-plus thousand. It's come down to a field goal, I think, 2 of the last 3 years. So it's always going to be Whitewater. That's our rival. We don't like them. We want to beat them, and we're going to keep it that way.
Love the honesty.
Absolutely. Yeah. And the fact, as Coach said, they have been epic games. And, again, the drum that we've been pounding as to why ESPN shows some of the garbage that they do sometimes on a Saturday afternoon when you've got these epic rivalries at the Division III level. But that's for another time and place. All right, Coach, here comes the most important question before we let you go. What's your go-to when you go to Lindy's? That's all I want to know. Like, for me, it's the working class hero. You throw everything on it, take the sprouts off. I don't want nothing healthy on my sub. But if you're going in to Lindy's, what are we grabbing, Coach?
I'm pretty basic, man. I just like a turkey sandwich. I'm pretty basic with that. I do like the sprouts. They're kind of a nice change up on the sandwiches is that we're keeping the sprouts on. I think they have one I can get avocado on it, so I like that, like an avocado with mayo. So I'm pretty simple that way. But I do like I try to be healthy when I can. So avocados and sprouts, put that on there, give me my greens for the day, and we're good to go.
Oh, Bless your heart. That's a somebody who understands Lindy's. That's what I love. Coach, we thank you so much for joining us. Have yourself a great start to the season, and we hope to talk to you hopefully maybe in a few weeks.
Appreciate it, fellas. You have a great weekend. Appreciate it.
All right, absolutely. That's head coach Michael Sweefel, the new head coach at the University of Wisconsin La Crosse. He's joining us on the Nicolay Law Talk and Text line. Another group that has headed to camp, that's the Wisconsin Badgers. We're going to get to them next. We're live from the State Fair. This is College Sports Weekly, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. Live from the Wisconsin State Fair, it's College Sports Weekly. We're powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. Don Wachillis along with Professor Dan Underberg, Charlie Usen directing the mothership here today as we again out here, day 3 of the fair. And our friends by the yard are giving away a $2,000 in-store credit towards your purchase of 4 custom Adirondack chairs and 2 side tables. To register to win, simply stop by the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network booth outside the Wisconsin State Fair Expo Center. Scan the QR code. We've got some fans here to give away. That's good. Get it? Fan,
Yeah, I
the
got
fan.
that.
All
Yeah,
right, we
yeah,
just
I'm-
want to make sure
I'm
you're with
awake.
me there,
Yeah,
Professor. All
that's,
right, here we go.
It was average.
You've done better.
Thanks, Charlie. The idea now that we're finally here for football.
Yeah.
The Badgers have reported to camp. I've drank the Kool-Aid, Dan.
Have you
I've
really?
drank the
Well,
Kool-Aid.
okay,
I
it's
am
2 versus 1 on this one.
I am all in now after what took place during media week, listening to the guys and the reports that came out of camp. I have drank the Kool-Aid. I am all in. Let's go. Let's see how things manifest themselves here over that first month. Now, I still stand by weeks 2 and 3.
Yes. I
Weeks
do-
2 and
you're-
3 are going to
you're not
be
wrong.
the most important games. I get Notre Dame is week 1. I understand what that would mean if you got the upset first and foremost. But as long as you can be battle tested, then I think we're okay. It's weeks 2 and 3 that have the ability really to propel you into the season. And so, again, after everything that has taken place with media day, media availability before camp now starting, and listening to some of the reports coming out of Madison, yeah, I drank the Kool-Aid. I'm ready
How
to
does it
roll.
taste?
Oh, it's delicious right now. Now, it may sour, it may get warm, it may get disgusting by November, but right now it is simply delicious. One of those that was made available to the media this week was QB1, Colton Joseph. Charlie, this will be number 1. Colton talking about being simply ready to get to it.
Up. I'm ready to go. Fall camp number 4, so I'm super excited to get out here and really put together everything that we've been building in the spring and the winter to kind of come out here full force, ready to go, and super excited, get out there with all the guys and just have a really good camp.
Dan, real quick, it's different. Just listening to a Colton Joseph, going back to listening to the last couple of years, the QBs that have been there under Luke Fickell, there's just a different positivity right now with these guys as they approach the media and talk about various things. Again, that maybe has the Kool-Aid for me tasting delicious.
It's what I picked up from listening to Colton Joseph talk has been he's very relaxed around the media. He's very
Yes.
much himself. He doesn't feel like he's been overly trained, and he doesn't. I guess where I'm going with that, Don, is it doesn't feel like he feels he has to be the guy on the offense. He knows he's QB1. He knows what he can do, but he's not coming into this program being sold as the person that's going to make it all work.
Nice.
It feels like to me when you listen to him talk, he feels like he's part of a team, that he's not the most important part of the team.
All right, let's go back to Colton Joseph. He talks a little bit about why he chose Wisconsin.
Just really the coaches were the main thing that I kind of really loved. Coach Guyton was had a big influence on that. Coach Grimes, Coach Fickell, but really I just saw it as the biggest opportunity for me to come out and show what I could do and try to make a name for myself and even since I've been here, make a name for the Badgers.
There's this yin and yang, for lack
There
of a
you
better
go.
way of saying it, that Colton Joseph chose the Badgers because in his eyes it was probably his best opportunity, to quote him, to make a name for himself.
Right.
But again, as well as helping Luke Fickell, the staff, and the rest of that team then kind of get back to its winning ways. Now, I'm not saying this team, again, is going to be playoff bound. This is not the turnaround we saw, let's say, a few years back with Indiana. But there's, again, this level of confidence, this level of composure from a Colton Joseph to lead this group where it needs to go and turn the ship around.
Yeah, and I'm going to go in a little bit of a different direction on that last quote, which is I understand why he's here.
Mhm.
I understand what he's hoping to accomplish. I'm at the place now that college football, at least at the upper levels, has become so transactional. I'd like to get back to hearing, a quote that starts with making a name for the Badgers and then making a name for myself. But I also get it. I mean,
Yeah.
that's what we're looking at when you are out there trying to, quote unquote, purchase a quarterback. My words, not theirs. You're going to see that as a way to improve your stock. What I hope is that he's not. This is not a stepping stone. I hope he's got an opportunity to show what he can do, and let the Badgers be the Badgers.
This may be a stepping stone because in the next hour we'll talk a little bit about QB2, who is garnering a ton of media attention. So right now it looks like finally, and we heard Coach talk about it last week in the media availability with the Big Ten, that each room now, and especially in the quarterback room, there's competition, there's depth, and because of it, should a Colton Joseph have a remarkable year and go someplace else, I'm not feeling as down in the dumps, for lack of a better way of saying it, when I know QB2 is sitting right there. But then it's about what? Making sure QB2 doesn't go anywhere. So I don't envy these coaches whatsoever. Colton Joseph talked also about what his biggest challenge is going into this upcoming season.
Probably just trying to adapt into, try to come into a new environment. I've never been in somewhere this cold before, and I'm glad that's over for now. But just trying to adapt and try to, bring myself out as a leader while adapting. But, I think I've done a really good job at continuing to do that and grow in that area.
And the problem right now with that transactional aspect, Dan, of college sports, whether it's football, basketball, hockey, you name it, he talks about assimilating. He talks about the culture. All of those things become difficult, again, under this transactional state. And I go back to coaches who are, reading the new roadmap, so to speak, and how to make this work. Because it used to be a guy, let's say like Colton Joseph, may come in like a Russell Wilson did back in the day. You walked into a locker room where guys had been there for 2, 3, 4 years. They understood what the expectations were, how we go about our business, how we handle things, and you assimilate into that. Now you walk in, and half of the players in the locker room are brand new, and trying to build that year in and year out is got to be an incredible challenge.
Yeah, that culture that you want to have, that a lot of coaches talk about, has got to be established firmly, no matter who's walking in there. Because you're right, it's not just about the quarterback walking in. It could be offensive lineman, defensive lineman, whoever that is now walking in, and you're a little outnumbered because it could be 15, 20 guys that are walking in that you are hoping you brought them in here for the simple purpose of having an impact, right? And
Absolutely.
they're there to give an impact, and they have an idea of what they want to do. So finding a way to help them assimilate into a particular standard that you have, a culture that you have, has got to be a more difficult challenge than it's ever been in the last 20, 30 years.
One more from Colton Joseph, talking about his ability not only to throw, but actually to run out of the pocket and create a little bit of a dual threat. Again, this is Colton Joseph from earlier this week.
Just being able to escape and find ways to create plays and to get out there, I think it definitely helps me and helps, keep play callers confident in me that, we can make something happen out of nothing.
So let's stay on the offensive side for a moment, Dan. And Jeff Grimes talked with the media as well as everybody was being made available. And he talked about the depth and the talent right now that he sees in that locker room that they didn't necessarily see in years past. And they won't come out and say it out of respect to those who have been there, so to speak.
Right.
But there's greater competition at a number of positions. But I also love the fact that Grimes talked about the fact that we need to simplify some of this stuff. Like, we were way too complex. Our guys are out there thinking way too much instead of playing football. And the recognition of that to me is another huge step
Yeah.
as to why I'm drinking the Kool-Aid.
Yeah, well, I mean, and I prefer that. I prefer to have any type of system you have. You have a system where it's easy to learn. You know where you're supposed to be, and you can instantly react or adapt depending upon what's being thrown at you.
Yes.
When you're overthinking what it is where you're supposed to be, or what a particular snap count or what your role is, that's going to be. You don't need that. And let's be honest, guys. Again, with the system that we're in right now, you can't assume that you've got 5 years to play with where everybody's going to know what you're doing.
Right.
You've got to simplify something so the new guy that's walking in can pick up on it right away.
That's a great point. As we were talking about culture before, you've got to walk into something where you understand. Now, it might be different if the offensive scheme is similar to where you previously played before coming to Wisconsin, but that isn't always the case. So I almost said dumb it down, but that's not the case. You're simplifying, right? Just to make there going to be some
some emails.
6'8" dudes in red jerseys coming to take my head off. Charlie, when you think back to your time playing football, were there instances where the coaching staff put a little bit too much on the plate and you found yourself thinking instead of reacting?
Oh, definitely. I think there's a lot of moments that you have as a player where you get lost a little bit in play calling. Play calling is really complex. Even at the high school level, you have a lot of plays that I think some teams probably are putting more on their players' plates than they need to in that situation. So I definitely found myself at the university like that. I also think that when you don't have 11 guys that understand what the play is and one guy is confused, it starts a whole chain reaction for everybody else. So you see one person next to you start doing something, especially in the offensive line. I think that's a big problem. That's where I played tackle. If your left guard is right next to you and he's all of a sudden running the opposite direction, well, now the center and the tackle both think they got to go the opposite direction. If they both think they're doing the wrong thing, now the wide receiver is looking over and seeing three giant dudes running towards him saying, am I doing the wrong thing? What's going on here? So now you have a whole group of guys that are all doing the wrong thing. I think that's a huge problem for everybody. So if one guy doesn't understand, you're going to have 3 to 4 to 11 guys not understanding that play. And I think that's something that you have to try to avoid as much as possible.
And then your coach is having a stroke.
Yeah,
Right,
absolutely. But, Dan, that is the most fascinating part, too, about football in general, whether it's Pee-wee, high school, college, pros. It requires so many moving parts being on the same page. Basketball requires 5. Hockey, you can go right down the line. It's a little bit less for every other sport with the exception of football. And football can get so complicated with stunts. And as Charlie was talking about, the guard pulling and everything else, that if you have one person who's off, and, I think Charlie gave us a great scenario where, everybody else is looking around like maybe I'm thinking about this wrong. But even one person, let's say that guard pulls at the wrong time and the defense has a stunt on and blows up your quarterback. I mean, everybody being on the same page is so important.
Yeah, it is. And getting back, to what the Badgers are trying to do now. So maybe we don't refer to it as dumbing down, but the reality is that you're putting people in a place to succeed.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
You're putting it in a spot where, and you do this in a position where it's a tight game. You're near the end. You need that score. You need that stop. You need guys to absolutely understand what their role is on the play. And that's the advantage of having a more simple system than having a system where you're waiting for your particular call in the huddle, and you're still not sure if that means an out or a post. That kind of a thing, where you have to make that judgment call. So I'm for simplicity, but I'm a guy that needs to be dumbed down for it. It's pretty easy that
I'm
way.
with you, Hoss. To stop making me think about this stuff. Just tell me where you want me to go. Let's go to the other side of the ball. Talk about Mike Tressel again during his media availability. There were 2 things that popped up while he spoke that I really found interesting. One, he wants to see this defense, Charlie, get 2 takeaways per game or up to. The wording as he put it just kind of, I'm like, you want 2 takeaways a game.
Exactly.
Just say it that way, right? But I also like the fact that he talked about on 3rd and 7+. So we always talk about 3rd and long, but he's quantified it as 3rd and 7+, that at a 75% rate. He wants this defense making stops. And I like the fact that for the first time in quite some time that we're hearing the coordinators put goals out there for all of us to respond to, as opposed to we just got to play our best football and give us coach speak.
Well, we keep talking about drinking the Kool-Aid. It's the first time in a long time that it feels like you've had the talent to be able to do that as a coaching
True.
staff. Like, this is the first year you've put money into that roster. This is the first year that you've been able to go out there and head into the transfer portal and actually get a lot of the top guys to commit to you and commit to your goals and your plans. I think that's really important that they feel that confidence as a coaching staff to go out there and do that. I think yes, it's frustrating to see a not so talented roster go out there each and every week, but that's all you can say as a coaching staff is that we just have to get better. Like, that's the goal every week. When you don't have that type of group out there, now you have that type of group, and now you can actually say, okay, we can take those next steps. And I think a lot of this, like, I don't want to thank Indiana, but Indiana winning the national championship, I think, opens up a lot of doors for some of these universities like Wisconsin who have had success in the past but are kind of in that lull right now to say, hey, if Indiana can do it, if they can turn it around, we're in the same conference as them, we're in a similar position to what they were in prior to being national champions. Maybe we can figure this out too, just like them. And I think that sells to those recruits, sells to those transfer portal guys a lot more. And now the coaching staff feels that confidence that all these players got from just seeing a team like Indiana win the championship.
Dan, one more thing before we get to break, because we'll have headlines on the other side of our timeout, and that is, you know, last week the report came out where Chris McIntosh went to Luke Fickell last year and said, hey, do you want to exit stage left? We talked about this at nausea a little bit last week. However, the fact that coach said no, that to me is another little component, a little piece as to why I'm excited about this year. Investment and a coach who's invested, because he could have very easily said, yeah, let's talk about a buyout. Let's talk about what you're going to put in my bank account, and I'll just tiptoe out the door, and you guys can do whatever it is you want to do. Coach was invested and stuck around, and because of it, again, another piece of the pie for me as to why I'm excited going into this year all of a sudden.
I think one of the ways that I'll give Luke Fickell a little bit more latitude than I have in the past is having been in the news conferences after some of those losses and seeing the exhaustion and the frustration and just the idea of what the hell is going on sometimes, and definitely not his words, but I mean, if you were there, you kind of saw it. And so the fact that he wanted to come back and take a shot at righting the ship, I think it's great. But now, I think I said this last week, no one's watching the players for their leadership. It's 100% on Luke Fickell. They are watching you, and it's going to be very transactional in the approach of you are going to be judged on the amount of wins that you get. We're not in a place anymore in college football where you can look to the future and say, hey, they're developing a program.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Now it's and you've seen guys get fired last year really quickly. They just weren't winning the right way, or they weren't winning enough games. We saw that happen at Penn State with James Franklin and do that. And so Luke Fickell, I appreciate that he wants to stick around, but his shoulders have got to be broader now than they've ever been, because it's on him. It's on him.
All right, let's get to a break. We'll do headlines on the other side. It's College Sports Weekly. We're live from the Wisconsin State Fair, and we're powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. Once again, we're live from the Wisconsin State Fair. It's College Sports Weekly, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. Let's get to some headlines as we make our way to the top of the hour. Coming up in August, we're already in August.
Yeah, we are.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's okay.
summer's going. Anyway,
fast.
August 21st through the 21st, Fiserv Forum is going to host the AVCA First Serve Milwaukee. We've got a ton of great D1 women's volleyball that will be played. It includes Louisville, Wisconsin, Marquette, Texas A&M, Pitt, Kentucky. You can go right down the line.
Yeah, these
It's
are
going to
great
be
teams.
awesome.
Yeah, these are going to be great teams, and you're going to pull probably your Final Four from this group of teams that are in there right now, and it's going to be fun to see how they exactly use this tournament.
Yeah.
Because it is exposition, and they can go in there and they can kind of try different lineups and different rotations and how they want to handle those things. But to see, teams of this caliber
Yes.
come in all Milwaukee all for the same weekend, if anybody in your family enjoys volleyball, this is where you want to be. It's going to be a great opportunity to see some fantastic athletes, fantastic everything.
The growth of women's volleyball, and in my mind, really started with the Badgers and the success that they've had. And now Marquette has certainly
Marquette is
jumped
jumping
on the
in, yeah.
bandwagon and really upped their program to see those two teams part of this mix, I think, is going to be really, really special. All right, this is going to be a stretch because I'm sure somewhere on these teams somebody went to college, but we're sitting here at the end of the straightaway by the Milwaukee Mile, and just want to remind people that the Milwaukee Mile will host 2 IndyCar races. The Snap-on IndyCar weekend doubleheader will take place August 28th through the 30th here at the Mile. Last year we had 1 race, and it was unbelievable. What a great time. We get 2 races this year, again, 28th through the 30th. So let's get out here, support the fact that we've got major IndyCar racing taking place at the Mile. I know we're the College Sports Show. It's a stretch. I did it. We're live from the Wisconsin State Fair. It's College Sports Weekly.
football, baseball. From Division 1 to Division 3, it's time for College Sports Weekly with Dom Macholis and Dan Underberg on the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network.
All right, welcome in hour number 2 of College Sports Weekly as we are live from the Wisconsin State Fair. Don Wachilis, along with the professor Dan Underberg, Charlie Usen, holding things down back at the studio as we make our way into the second hour. We're going to talk some more Badger football again as we start getting excited for week 0, which I still don't understand, but that's neither here nor there. A little bit later, we'll check in with our friends at Bryan and Stratton. Kyle Hoffman, the head men's basketball coach, will be joining us. And then we'll hand out some shovels, and I pulled the sound for you, Daniel, because he's got a great shovel to hand out today, that I think we may end up be talking about for some time. The fair now has opened. We had the national anthem as we were standing here in break, and then suddenly looking around, only here at the fair, right? To our right, the Milk House is open. The Expo Center is open. And somebody across the way just turned on the Coors Light sign. So we officially got things up and running here at the fair. Yeah, so come on down. It's a great day to be out here. Nice breeze blowing through.
This is nice, perfect day.
And it's a perfect day to be out here at the Wisconsin State Fair. Again, as we noted, it is day 3 of the Wisconsin State Fair, and our friends from By the Yard are giving away a $2,000 in-store credit towards your purchase of 4 custom Adirondack chairs and 2 side tables. To register to win, simply stop by the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network booth right outside the Wisconsin State Fair Expo Center and scan the QR code. Plus, we've got some tchotchkes. We've got some fans to give away here to help you navigate the Wisconsin State Fair. So, again, great day to be out here. Glad that the station let us out on a field trip, Dan. So we get to debrief at the fair. Now, we also have to shout out to our friend Paul in Caledonia, who texts in just about every week. My understanding is he's trying to turn his golf clubs into tomato steaks in the garden. Relax, pal. It'll all come back around. Just go ahead, pull them back out.
I feel your pain, Paul.
Everything will be fine. You're going to be just fine as we make our way towards football season. And for him, it'll be duck hunting season.
Okay.
So let's not, abandon ship quite yet. Before you know it, you're going to be putting those things in the garage before you know it. With that, let's get into some football talk here once again with the Wisconsin Badgers. And Dan, I'll tell you, as I said, I'm all in. I'm drinking the Kool-Aid. Life is wonderful, and I'm not necessarily too concerned about me overhyping the fact that I'm just getting ready for college football to begin. And again, the depth. So we heard from Colton Joseph quite a bit in our first hour during his media availability. Here's the tandem I want to see work this year, and that's him and Eugene Hilton Jr.
Okay.
Because Hilton Jr., I thought last year had shown sparks of really some incredible athleticism from that wide receiver position. And however we look back and want to quantify things, the fact of the matter is the quarterback play last year was a hot mess due to injury and other things. To have somebody like Colton Joseph step in who has the stature of a QB1 and to have a potential number 1 receiver like Eugene Hilton Jr., I'm not saying this is going to be some wide open offense, but I think we may have a player who can stretch the field. When we talk about the Packers, we're looking at Jordan Love and Christian Watson, just somebody to stretch the field. I think for the Badgers, that could be Eugene Hilton Jr.
And I see why you're excited for Eugene Hilton. I'm more paying attention to Chris Brooks.
Okay.
I think what he can do, and he showed flashes of being able to cut and to deliver yardage after the catch. I think there's an opportunity there. And when we're talking about our new quarterback, I think it's one thing that's really important to understand is maybe to pull back or the throttle a little bit on the excitement. Not that he's not a good quarterback, but let's remember he's making a jump from Old Dominion into the Big Ten.
True.
Okay, and
True.
he's going to be going against a higher level of talent, arguably the best conference in the United States of America. And from there, he's going to have to. It's coverage is going to be tighter, defenses are going to be faster, and I think a guy like Brooks can help loosen that up a little bit.
But doesn't that also, whether it's Brooks or Hilton Jr., doesn't that go back to what we were talking about with Grimes and the fact that we're going to simplify some things? We're just going to let the athleticism show, and it will be more impactful in my mind to a Colton Joseph for the exact reasons that you gave. I've got minimal things that I have to digest when A, I spit the play out, but B, as I'm walking up towards the line or sitting back in the shotgun, knowing exactly what I need to do as opposed to overthinking things, which then can create a whole different realm of problems.
Well, either way you look at it, I think you're looking at execution. And, yeah, the simple way is easier to execute, but you also have Big Ten teams on the other side of the line that are looking to do the same things, several of whom are in the same program that they've had for quite some time. So I think all I'm saying is if we look at who they have right now and how easy it is to get excited, I'm just saying my perspective is, Don, that we just take a deep breath because there's.
But I drank the Kool-Aid. I can't take a deep breath.
I know, and there's all kinds of Kool-Aids around here that you can continue to, enjoy. But look, here's where I'm coming from on the Wisconsin Badgers. I've been sold the Kool-Aid for 2 years.
Oh, I get it.
Now you got to prove it to me.
I get it.
You have to prove it to me because lifelong fan, obviously an alum, and I've got all kinds of red and white in the closet and want to see him do well. But right now, I've been burned twice. I'm not going to get burned a third time. You got to prove it this time.
Absolutely. Charlie, we talk about simplifying the offense. Give me the offensive line perspective, especially from the center position, who becomes then, we'll call it the quarterback for the guys up front. And the ability now to maybe not have to overthink from the center position to just bark out whatever the call is and go, I think has to be beneficial as well.
It is, definitely. And I think when you talk about simplifying the offense, that also means you're going to have a run-first approach in most systems, I think. So with the offensive line, I think that's really beneficial to have that focus on the run. That's usually the easiest play to block versus a pass play or a play action play where you kind of have to think about what you're doing a little bit more. You're settling in, waiting to see what the defense does. It's a much more reactionary play versus a run game where it's just go. It's just go find the guy that you're supposed to block, go as 100 miles per hour, try to put that guy on his butt. And I think with the center, that helps with those calls a lot more too. You're not changing your protection nearly as much on the offensive line. You're not doing all of these other extra calls. You're pointing out where the mic is. You're pointing out if a guy is shifting. You're pointing out if there's a blitzer coming from the defensive backfield. You're looking at those things, and it's a lot easier just to bark that out than actually have to read an entire defense and settle in that way too. So with this Badgers offense, and why I was so excited about hearing Colton Joseph talk about being that dual threat type of player, I think you have to master that run game, which is why I'm really excited about Abu Sama too, and him coming in through that transfer portal. Not only just the quarterback, but having a running back room that you've revamped, because that is extremely important to then getting the offensive line, I think, back on track and having them think a lot less as a unit, which helps out the rest of the team.
Here's another thing, Dan, that I wish I was more talented. I should have sent it to Charlie. Charlie could have cut this clip in like 3 seconds. But our friend Spencer had posted on his Twitter account and then put out to the various networks for what Spence does as far as his job goes with the Wisconsin Radio Network. And that is, and I forget names, and I apologize even though I've got the Google machine in front of me, but an offensive lineman saying essentially, we're bringing the blah, 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 and we'll repeat it because we'd like to be back at the fair next week.
That's a family event.
But again, it's the intensity, it's the fire that these guys possess this year that I think we thought we saw in years past, but now in comparison, it's just, again, different. And I think it goes to what we talked about earlier, which is the depth that exists within that locker room, that they've got to fight one another now for a starting job. Nothing is going to be handed to them.
I think that's it. I think the first 2 years you heard that energy that happened, but that was at the beginning of the season. Then at near the end, middle of the season, when things started to kind of die a little bit.
Yep.
However, What's a little different about this year is the success they had against 2 top 25 programs, including Washington last year. They ended arguably, the end of the season on an upward swing. And I think that's why it's easier to feel more positive about this team, and why they can feel a little bit more relaxed in saying things that they want to say to the media, and feeling, kind of feeling that, that strength that they haven't felt for quite some time. Beginning of the season, yeah, everybody's fired up. You think you're going to win. Then you get through the season, you find out who you are. This time, I think this team started to identify who they could be at the end of last season, and they're carrying that over into the beginning part of this season. And I think it'll show itself arguably against Notre Dame a little bit.
Yeah, I think so as well. One of the storylines also coming out of camp, and I think we heard a little bit about it during spring ball, and that is Ryan Hopkins, the freshman quarterback. The kid from California, who everybody talks about has that California swag, like just walks into the locker room, possesses extreme confidence. I don't think Ryan Hopkins is going to push Colton Joseph to be the number 1 QB, but I think all things are kind of pointing towards the direction that he's going to really compete with Deuce Adams for that number 2 spot. I think it's going to be interesting to see, based on what you're hearing and seeing so far, again, very early on in camp, but even the coaching staff talks about his football IQ, his acumen, to not only have that swag to walk in and really garner the interest of his peers, but the fact that the coaching staff is realizing how his understanding goes with regards to the play calls and situations and so forth. Ryan Hopkins is going to be as important as Colton Joseph is this year for this Badger team. And what I'm really, really, really hoping for, again, going back to week 2 and 3, is that we finally watch this Badger team blow out a couple of these directional schools and see what some of these guys can do. Not to create quarterback controversy, but I just want to see what the hype is about in a game-like situation.
No, it's a great way to put it, and that's what those games are for. You want to get, to a place in that game where you're far enough ahead, you can get these guys some reps on the field and between the lines. I think what I'm liking about this quarterback room, based on what we're hearing in, both from the coaches, from Colton Joseph, it doesn't feel like these 3 guys are going to experience a game where the game is too fast for them.
Yes.
Like they're going to be able to, and that comes down to football IQ, like you were mentioning it with Hopkins. I think that this is an opportunity, again, this development of the quarterback room is a great chance for Wisconsin to see what they have in those 2 games, but also, God willing, we have guys that can walk in. If Colton Joseph has to come out, if he gets hurt, that they can come in and they can execute the offense. We did not have that last year, and granted, I'll give you that we had problems on offensive line and other areas.
Yeah.
But at some point, you've got to be able to hit the mark, and there were plenty of times when they couldn't do that.
So, Charlie, one of the things I had talked about on my podcast a couple of weeks ago was timing as far as the quarterback position goes. Like, I'm not worried about drop balls right now. I'm not worried about an errant throw, especially if the quarterback is throwing it in the right place. Now, that just sounds ridiculous. However, early on, you're going to have receivers who run the wrong route in whatever the play is called. So I want to see the timing be where it needs to be, and in essence, then the accuracy of where the coaching staff wants that ball thrown, because we can then overanalyze every single thing that happens day in and day out at training camp. But as someone who played at the collegiate level, what do you look for, Charlie? What's your go-to? What's your benchmark that you say this team is on the right track or this team is still a ways away?
Well, I think one of the biggest things is something we've seen from this team throughout this entire offseason is just the energy. I think throughout training camp is making sure that your team is going out there with a different kind of vibe than they have in the past, especially if you're the Wisconsin Badgers, is going out there with the juice, is hitting each other hard whenever they put the pads on, is maybe getting into a little bit of a training camp scuffle, like having that energy between your teammates that you guys are witnessing a change, and you notice that change and you're going to respond to that change emotionally. I think that's huge as a teammate who's A, just joining the squad, or B, being a part of the squad for a while and has seen the kind of down years that you've had over the past few. that it's huge that you have the Mason Postas who are just so exciting, Cooper Catalano, who's so exciting, all these incoming transfer portal players that all want to be a part of the Wisconsin Badgers. I think that's huge. I think from a technical standpoint, I think timing is a huge thing because not just for the quarterback, it's important, but I think for the rest of the team it's important.
Sure.
If the quarterback can rely on the offensive line to give him that 2.5 to 3 seconds every single time, he can get his timing down. If the wide receivers can know that every single time the ball is going to be coming their way, once they hit that 5-yard marker and they're hitting that post inside, they know the ball's coming, they can have a lot more confidence in their routes and not have to think as much. I think that's a huge deal. And then I think the other thing is just an aggressive mindset overall. I think you want to see these players, like kind of like I mentioned before, with the attitude, but just physically just hitting each other and making sure that they're not taking it soft as you get into this start of the season. Obviously, you don't want injuries, but I think at the same time, you want to make sure that these guys understand that they are playing Big Ten football and should want to be playing Big Ten football from the moment they step on the field.
That's a great point. A couple of things to get to as we make our way towards break. First of all, you can tell, Professor, there's a bit of a change because it was announced this week that there will be an open practice on Tuesday, August 18th at Camp Randall. It'll be under the lights. It's being sponsored by Culver's. It will begin at 7 o'clock. So we're kind of pounding our chest a little bit in a good way to say, come on out, take a peek, get excited again before we have to head up to Green Bay and take on Notre Dame, where, last year we canceled some of these events because I don't think we were altogether confident about how things would play out. The fact that we're putting this thing, granted it's on a Tuesday night, I understand that, but under the lights, come on out, see the team. This unveiling, so to speak, to me is another step in a direction that we're feeling really confident about the upcoming season.
You feeling confident, or you're feeling confident just about your program that you're taking those steps? So you
Yes.
think of what happened last year, you could make the argument they just weren't organized enough at that point to have those extra practices and to do those things, only because you're going to see what you're going to see on the field as a coach. And you may not be too sure that you need to put that out there.
Right. I don't necessarily want to highlight
So I don't
that.
think I want to do that. So I think they're at a place now where we've talked a lot about offense, and that's fantastic. I'm sure, over the next few weeks we'll get the chance to go and dive deep into the defense. And what we're hearing about the linebackers and what we're hearing about the corners and what we're hearing about a much bigger defensive line. So I think, it's okay to put that out there now and let your fans see a little bit more than what they've become accustomed to the last couple of years.
Yeah, and we had a couple of things open up this week. One in Madison and one just to our south, and not really open up because its official grand opening won't be until October, but people got an idea, an advanced look at the one to our south. But let's start with the one in Madison with the Kellner Family Center. To watch the social media posts of the players running through that place and how excited they were, it was like watching, a 6-year-old at Christmas who got the G.I. Joe with the Kung Fu grip. I mean, it was spectacular to see those guys as excited as they were to know this was going to be our new practice home and everything, all the bells and whistles now that are provided that the McLean Center couldn't just because it had outdated itself.
Yeah, and what I like about the McLean Center is how it's going to kind of embed other elements into it. You can have stakeholders in there watching it comfortably. It really is designed for the total program. And when we think total program, we think players, and that's the focus. We understand that. But now it's a beautiful building that can bring the much-needed donors, get them excited into it, give them a place to watch. Obviously there's going to be upgraded technology for all the meeting rooms and things they're going to need. It's a place for Wisconsin to bump up its presence in recruiting a little bit. And we forget, for years and years, when the McLean Center came out, that was brand new. That was something that a lot of people didn't have. So now they've updated their ability to compete in that system again, in that arena.
So the Kellner Family Center, again, opening up this week. It's just to the east of the stadium, connected, but just on the east side. And again, the video that was there was absolutely spectacular. We'll save this one for a couple of weeks, but the media got a preview of the new stadium down at Northwestern. It looks beautiful. Again, all the bells and whistles are there, but there's some interesting aspects, especially with the student section, that I think are going to be worth discussing. But again, we'll do that a little bit later. We got to get to a break. On the other side of the break, we'll check in with our friends again at Bryan and Stratton College. We'll bring in the head men's basketball coach, Kyle Hoffman, will join us. Again, this is College Sports Weekly. We're live from the Wisconsin State Fair, and we're powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook.
Spiggity spot the blood some dun 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 dun. They wanna some love from they wanna some love from they wanna.
All right, welcome back in. Live from the Wisconsin State Fair. This is College Sports Weekly. As always, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. Don Wachillis, along with Professor Dan Underberg. Charlie Usen back at the to our friends at Buy the Yard. They're giving away a $2,000 in-store credit towards your purchase of 4 custom Adirondack chairs and 2 side tables. To register to win, you simply stop by the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network booth. We're right outside of the Wisconsin State Fair Expo Center. You scan the QR code. Plus, we've got some free fans to give to you to help you out as you make your way through the fair. Our thanks to our friends up in Wausau at 93.9 The Game, in Green Bay, Appleton, 99.7 FM and 1440 AM WNFL. In Milwaukee, 1250 AM, 105.7 FM The Fan, and in Duluth, Superior at 710 The Game. Let's get to it. We're going to jump to the Nicolay Law Talk and Text line and our weekly visit with the folks over at Bryan and Stratton College. Let's bring in the head men's basketball coach, Kyle Hoffman. Coach, good morning. Good to talk to you.
Good morning. Thanks for having me. Excited to be on.
Absolutely. So, Coach, we as fans are getting excited because football season is around the corner. And then, for me, there's that perfect sweet spot where college football is up and running. College basketball then begins, and it's just nirvana for a college sports nut like myself. But it doesn't just happen overnight. You in the process at this point, or is it upcoming when your team will begin reporting and you'll start this process of preparing for the 26-27 season?
Yeah, August 24th, we got moving day for all the guys that aren't from the area, and then 25th we start getting after with workouts and on the court and in the weight room. So excited to get everyone on campus and got basically a brand new team here. So excited to put everything together here, everything work here.
Coach, I'm curious. We're going to get to the season in a little bit, but I want to know what drew you into coaching. You're a young guy. What's that siren call into wanting to be the head coach of a basketball program in college?
Yeah, I think early on in my life, I think it was like middle school time, and I always told my parents I wanted to be a college coach, and I always had a dream of that. So, I try to do, help out as many camps as I could, helped out my dad coaching, if it was baseball, football, basketball, whatever it may be. Once I got into high school, trying to help out, with AU and stuff, as well as in college. I just have passion for it. And I know very few are, but one of the realistic ones that I knew NBA wasn't going to be, a real reality for me. So this is something that I've always wanted to do since, how I was little, and just try to do everything I could to be prepared for today.
All right, Coach, so you talked about the fact you're going to have a brand new team when they report here in a week or two. What is that like? Is that good? I don't want to say good or bad, but the challenge now of starting over, sometimes that can be refreshing, where you get a bunch of new people in and you get to do and create the schemes and the culture and everything else from start, or would it have been nice to maybe have a couple of guys held over to help that culture continue?
Yeah, for sure. Obviously, different type of challenge. In my first year last year, I had a lot of really good high character returners that did a great job leading our program in a positive way in everything that we do. And so my focus in this recruiting classes is making sure I bring in really good people. It just makes things easier when it comes to putting everything together. Got more guys that are about the right things and being leaders and all that. So that's kind of been my main focus here. We're kind of in the same situation a few years back with Charles. When he was here, we focused on just bringing in really high character guys, and we just had really good this leadership because of that. And we made nationals for the first time in school history that year with bringing in a new team. So I'm hoping we can do the same thing this year with the new group that we have coming in.
So what do you do specifically, or you can answer this any way you want, obviously, but you get the new guys in, you've got high character guys, which is what you're recruiting. But how do you get them to effectively integrate into one basketball cohesive unit? Because you're going to have guys that were the guy at different programs, and you're also going to have guys that are looking to try to find their place. What elements do you put together just to get them to kind of get on a basic first page?
Yeah, just understanding how we got a talented group, and not everyone's going to be able to be the star. I think in the last 2 to 4 years we've had a really balanced scoring attack, and kind of see that be the same thing for us here. So this giving everyone just the understanding of each game might be someone's day, and let's just make sure we're finding that hot hand on that day. The next day it might be you, the next day it might be someone else. But just understanding that if we want to win at a high level and compete to go to nationals and win a championship, that we got to play for one another. Let's find the hot hand for that day. Just because we just know we got a really talented group throughout, and it's not just going to be a one-man show for us when we're recruiting guys that that have proven it at the next level already. When bringing in transfers as really high impact freshman kids coming in that put up some good numbers in high school. So again, just kind of getting these guys to understand it's not going to be might not be your night every night. Let's make sure we're playing for one another. And then just everything's going to kind of trickle down, and it might take a little bit to get going. But after Christmas, when we want to play our best basketball, hopefully that's when everything's heading on point.
Talking with Kyle Hoffman, the head men's basketball coach at Bryan and Stratton, and our weekly check-in with Bryan and Stratton College's athletic department. Coach, talk a little bit about your staff, because we tend to focus in on head coaches and all of the elements that come across your desk. But if the assistant coaching staff is put together right, it takes a little bit of the onus off your plate, and you've got some great assistant coaches working within your program.
Yeah, 100%. Starting with our associate head coach, Julian Ware, has helped out at different, both genders, men and females, and helping out at different levels all throughout his career. He's a GA at Duke, student manager at Oral Roberts. He's also had some grill experience when it comes to at Delaware State. So just he's bringing a totally different background, because he's worked for Carl Lawson. He's worked for Coach K. So just seeing those backgrounds has helped me, especially being a new head coach the last couple of years here, to really implement some really good things here. Got a great staff here. Coach Cruz here, Coach Pfister, Coach Riley, Coach Finnessy, and all that. It's guys that are really hungry, young guys that just love giving after it. And like I said, those guys that are all about the right things. And again, we got to make sure we have a staff that's going to work hard for these guys. And so these guys come in with a fire every day, being a younger staff, hungry to get their opportunity to be a head coach in the future.
Do you think you mentioned in your answer, you're talking about how some of you guys are younger guys and they're starting to cut their teeth as basketball coaches. Do you think that's an advantage in terms of relating to the players that you have now?
Yeah, for sure. When things get tough, those guys can explain, hey, I just played college basketball and was in your same shoes not too long ago. And so, again, goes back to trusting us. It's not staff or, we're all older guys and all that. And, times have changed. Now, these guys are in the time, in the changes already type of thing. So, it's just easier for those guys to, relate and trust them, because it's hey, Coach Finness, you just got done playing college basketball, a couple of years ago. Hey, guys, I've just been in your same shoes for the last 4 years when I was playing. Trust me, things are gonna work out here. Just gotta keep working, things like that. Where it's just easier when with relating. They know the same music. They enjoy doing the same type of things and all that. So it's just easier to build those relationships with those guys. So definitely an advantage having a younger staff. Obviously, the experience is nice and all that, but when it comes to, just having a good overall staff, it's good having those young guys that are really hungry, excited to, put in the extra work and all that, because those guys are hungry for their opportunity to come next.
Coach, if you were to describe the style of basketball you're playing there with the Bobcats, How would you put it into words? What are we looking at if we were to come to a Bobcat game later in the fall and in through the winter?
Yeah, I'm going to see a team that really guards at a high level. You know, we run some unique defenses that honestly most teams in the country don't run. We were number 3 defensive team in the country last year. We had to replace the best shot blocker in the country, so got to figure out some different things here. But defense kind of my DNA last 4 years as a couple years as assistant coach and associate head coach. I've been part of 4 years in a row top 15 defensive team in the country. Defense is, you know, who we are. So if you're a defensive-minded coach and all that, it'll fun watching us play. Offensively, looking to push the ball a little more this year and all that, and spread things out a little more than we did last year after we get some stops. But at the end of the day, if you're, like I said, if you're a defensive coach, you're gonna enjoy watching us play.
I'm curious. So we're sitting out here at the Wisconsin State Fair, and obviously you're seeing all the wonderful things the state has to offer, and we're about to go out and enjoy it ourselves. But when you are recruiting a new team, how do you get them to Milwaukee? Obviously, these are kids that want to play. They want to win. But what are some of the elements that you maybe find some guys that are from warmer parts of the country and you want to bring them up here? How do you do that?
Yeah, I think this, recruiting and showing that, it's worth the investment to, call them all the way across the country. I got some guys from Bahamas. We got kids from London, Florida, Georgia. We have guys from all over the place coming here because they see the vision and the culture and the success that we've had. Starting with Matt Makerzak, 2018-2019 season, we've been above 500 since then. He's obviously the new head coach at Northern Illinois. And then JT Gritzmacher is the head coach at La Crosse and has been to, I believe, it's Final Four or Elite Eight a couple of times now. And then Coach Rock, the Iowa State assistant. So we've had a lot of success here. And I think this guy's seen that the division helping. We also like bringing guys to that next level as well. So just kind of showing them that, hey, we're going to help you become a better human being. We're going to help you become a better student and player here. And just recruiting these families and parents to understand, and it's going to be worth it. With your kid being far from home, they're going to be able to grow and have to adapt to life a little quicker and all that. So just kind of selling our culture and the success that we've had here.
Coach, appreciate the time. Hope once the season's up and running, we get a chance to talk again. But good luck with camp and getting all those new guys on the same page and having a successful season. Appreciate you joining us.
Hey, thanks for having me again.
All right, that's Kyle Hoffman, the head men's basketball coach of Bryan and Stratton College, joining us on the Nicolay Law Talk and Text line. Dan, the idea of a fresh team coming in, dependent upon, again, whatever happened the year before or 2 years prior to that, it could be a bit refreshing that you get to start over.
Energizing, right.
But then on the other hand, having to start from scratch has got to be a little daunting to get the team up and where you want them once the regular season begins.
It's an opportunity for the guys that are coming in to establish themselves, who wants to be the leader and who wants to be kind of team forward first. And pretty much those are going to be the individuals that are, if they have the talent, are going to be the ones that he's going to run with. You can't promise everybody the world on this one. So, yeah, daunting in a way, but there are times, from teaching, I know from teaching, when it's a new class coming in, it's like, okay, I'm ready for a fresh start, ready to do that, and it's probably the same way.
Yeah, we'll be interested to see how that thing progresses as the season goes on, but we wish them nothing but luck. All right. Time for us to get to our last break. When we come back, we hand out shovels. My guy to the right here has been salivating over this one for a couple of days. I can't wait to hear his take once we get ready to do that, and we'll do it next. We're live from the Wisconsin State Fair. It's College Sports Weekly, and we're powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook.
shovel the funk. I wanna shovel the funk. I feel like shovel the funk. I gotta shovel the funk. You wanna shovel the funk? Do you wanna shovel the funk? Then go ahead. Go.
One last time, live from the Wisconsin State Fair. It's College Sports Weekly, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. Want to thank our guests for jumping in today. We'll talk about them in just a moment, but I want to make sure our friend has time in handing out his shovel.
Man, you are really building this up.
Well, it is. Come on. This is one of the most epic PR blunders
Yes.
by a
What do you
major
mean?
university.
It's awesome.
Well, it's awesome
was
for us, Charlie, but not necessarily for the university. Charlie, it's clip number 5 and what I sent you. If you wouldn't mind playing the new AD from the University of Purdue and what he had to say.
Every recruit, every current student athlete will hear this message repeatedly. We are here to win championships. If you don't want to win championships, go to Indiana.
And we leave it at that. And so, Daniel, this is your shovel. Go.
Okay, I'll only ask this. How many people had to actually, you heard it the first time,
Yes.
and it was so crazy you had to listen to it 2 or 3 more times.
Yes.
You just had to take it in. Like, are you aware of what you just said?
Uh-huh.
And this is the guy that's trying to be the tough guy,
Uh-huh.
and will never be able to pull it off. Just can't do it. He's not Alvarez. He
Right.
doesn't have that swagger to walk in and take over a room, but he tried. He failed miserably, and I'm sure there were a board of trustees at Purdue thinking, "Dear God, what have we just done?"
Uh-huh.
So, yeah, Tommy, no more jokes, please. Just
Right.
be the AD. But if you're gonna do jokes like that, then please make them as public as he did the last time.
Think about how many other universities. I understand you try to keep it regionally. It's who your competitors are,
Right.
yada, yada, yada. But how many other in the Midwest he could have chosen outside of Indiana who just won the national championship for football, who's considered to be a blue blood when it comes to basketball, even though
Yeah.
they've struggled recently.
right.
But if we just go by numbers, which a lot of people had fun doing on social media, yeah, you didn't have any basis for
No,
that
it's
whatsoever.
and do a little background work on your commentary. I mean, because when he did that, I stopped what I was doing at work. I'm sorry if my bosses are listening. I went back and looked at it. Does anybody know how many team national championships Purdue has won? You wanna take a
I
guess
think
at
we're
this?
at 2.
Charlie, how many do you think they've won over the course of their
3, maybe.
They've won 5.
Okay.
They've
all right.
won 5. The 2 in golf,
put
1
your
in men's
respect on
golf, 1 in
Purdue, man.
women's golf, and but the most recent one was 27 years ago, women's basketball. Like, come on, man. It's think really hard about why you're known. It isn't because of your national championships.
So if 27 years ago the last championship was in women's basketball, was the golf team still using bamboo shafts? Like, were the golf balls being personally wound before the shell got put around it? I mean,
Yeah, they had to go to Scotland to play.
yes,
Yeah, they
okay,
had to do
all
that,
right.
So.
Well, to your point, yeah, do your homework, or some poor intern is being shown the door minutes after that. So, Charlie, I turn it to you, my friend. What you got?
All right, I will be heading on over to the NFL, but this will be a former Badger that I wanted to talk about. Broncos defensive lineman Matt Henningsen tore his Achilles at practice yesterday afternoon, nearly 1 year after tearing his Achilles during training camp last year around this time. The former 6th-round pick out of Wisconsin appeared in all 34 games over his first 2 NFL seasons. It is now set to miss back-to-back years with Achilles injuries. That is from Mike Kliss, 9 News, and Ari Myra.
Man,
That sucks.
those types of injuries, and then to have it reoccur where it's season ending. Charlie, I'm sure in your time playing football, you've had, teammates, friends, whatever the case, run into those situations. It's heartbreaking, really, because many of those guys, it's their last go.
It really is, and especially at like the D3 level, playing with guys like that truly is their last go. They have nowhere else to go. You're playing D3 because you love football, because you want to keep playing your sport. Maybe don't have that opportunity beyond that. I think for a guy like Matt Henningsen, a guy who started his career with 2 really good years, being a 6th-round pick, to have this happen, to kind of tear whatever you built up as a guy who's already beating your expectations, that's just awful. You hate to hear.
Yeah, you hate to hear that. My shovel is going out to the makers of Kool-Aid. Cherry flavored.
They should.
Because I'm
They
drinking
should,
it, boy,
yep.
when it comes to the Wisconsin Badgers. And I'm going to give an honorary shovel to my wife, who was here for literally 10 minutes and now has to head back home for various things that are happening, within the family
We
today.
have one like on YouTube or on Facebook, and it's from Jill Underberg. So both.
Yeah, there
shovels.
we go. The wives are playing it out today. I literally think she came to make sure I had to give her the credit card so I couldn't go through the doors into the expo center and come back.
Honey,
with-
I bought a hot tub.
I got you.
I'm telling you, I watched the guy do it. It's really simple. How much? We'll talk about that later. Anyhow, so we start making our way again, Daniel, closer to football, both in the WIAC, the NAC, all of the other conferences within the state, and then obviously the Badgers. Who are you more excited for going into the season? Is it the WIAC? I'm just going to use the conference. You don't have to pick a team, or the Badgers as of this date right now.
As of this date, I know what we're going to get from the WIAC. I know what we're going to get. You're going to get great football coming out of that conference. You know you're going to get probably at least 2 people getting into the tournament.
Yeah.
So I'm more excited about the Wisconsin Badgers. It's their opportunity to prove it, but they have to prove it. So
Understood.
This is a kind of positive energy being sent my way. I'm really excited to see kind of the improvement from last year to this year, see what they can do, see what Colton Joseph can do against a higher level of competition. I think that is a great way to start against Notre Dame, but I'm going to Wisconsin on that one.
Yeah, I would have been, and I have been, Wisconsin for a hot minute, but as soon as Coach Sweefel at UWL started talking about the rivalry with Whitewater, I was like, oh, let's go. Let's start getting some of those state
They're
schools.
sticking with
He's
their
going
drinking
at
so
it.
much Kool-Aid, man. So
Oh.
much Kool-Aid.
It is. Listen, the Kool-Aid is better than the Coors Light sign across the way, Charlie. We could have been a babbling mess by this time after 2 hours. All right, we got to get out of here. Michael Sweefel, the new head coach at UW La Crosse, our thanks for jumping on, as well as Kyle Hoffman, the men's basketball coach at Bryan and Stratton. For Charlie Usen, the Professor Dan Underberg, I'm Don Wachillis. We're back in 6 and 22. We'll see you next week. We'll be right here live at the fair.